All right, welcome to the Harpswell Select Board meeting of Thursday, January 18th. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Adoption of the agenda. We
I had a constituent call me today, wondering if the Harbor and Waterfront and Town Lands Committee could be meeting sooner on an emergency basis because of the storm damage. And I don't know if we want to have that on the agenda and talk about it, or...
can get hold of the chairman of both committees, see if they want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough information to talk about a whole lot
Right,
now.
yeah.
We're still
Yeah,
getting...
that's all I have.
Okay. Anything with you, Jane?
No, thank you.
All right. Accept Cook's Lobster and Ale House heating assistance donation. I assume Kevin's the spokesman.
All right, thank you. As all of you know, I'm Kevin, front of house manager at Cook's Lobster and Ale House. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. In December, Cook's Lobster and Ale House held its annual Harpswell Heating Assistance Dinner and Silent Auction. With the support of the community and our sponsorship opportunities, we were again able to raise more money than any previous year. With donations provided by businesses, owners, and from the Harpswell and surrounding areas, we were able to fill our auction table with nearly 75 lots to bid. The total amount raised this year for the heating season was $25,000. We could not have raised this amount without the help of the following sponsors. Angle and Vocal, Casco Bay, Lands End Gift Shop, North Atlantic Inflatables, Keller Williams, Harpswell Realty Group, Roxanne York, Main Real Estate, R.A. Weber and Sons, Northeast Marine Survey, Inc., Lee Auto Malls, Wicked Joe's Organic Coffee, Rob Williams Real Estate and Harpswell Property Management, Portside Real Estate Group, Pat's Pizza, Doug Warren and Pamela Berry, and Mike Topchick. While we are here celebrating the success of our last fundraising event, we can't help but think that our friends and neighbors who have been affected by the last two storms. Seeing the damage that has happened in our community, as well as most of Maine's coastlines, we will be holding a benefit dinner February 10th to raise funds to help our neighbors rebuild and get back to work. Please put that date on your calendars. On behalf of myself, Nick and Jen Charbonneau, as well as the entire team at Cook's Lobster and Ale House, we would like to thank you all and take a moment to thank everyone who came out and participated in the event. It's a pleasure to keep this tradition going and an honor to warm the hearts and homes of this community. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
That's amazing.
Very amazing.
I move we accept $25,000 from
I'll second that.
All in favor? Which is about half of what we put out last year. Is that correct, Terry?
Yeah. I think we expended about 50,000.
$51,555.
You guys covered about half.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Can we get a
do it.
photo?
Yeah. Can you use the one from last year? I will be here on the 10th. I'll be in the sand.
That's nice too, though.
Get us all one of those big bank checks.
What's that?
We need one of those big bank checks.
Yeah, we do.
You want me to get that chair out?
I'm gonna get rid of his table.
Oh, what about the chair?
Yeah, the chair. Ooh.
Don't hurt yourself.
Dives over the desk.
I gotta laugh at it, everyone.
Very nice.
This is the official.
Comes the anchor.
I shy in comparison.
I was gonna say, he might have a nicer camera, Terry.
It's gonna close my eyes.
Thanks.
I'll spend it all on
Terry's already got her eye on ball on it. So.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, very charitable. Whew. Wonderful.
Have fun with the budget meeting.
Oh, yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get Tina to receipt it.
You were right, she can hardly wait.
I told you. I'm surprised she let me hold it that long.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you.
You mentioned the,
I would like to,
okay.
Wait for Terry to get back. Oh, we don't need Terry to start. Oh, she's got the button.
oh, well, I don't know, did you have any other announcements or issues? I did have.
Oh,
Oh,
nope. You have anything, Jane?
No.
Additionally?
Good.
David, additionally?
Well, not for the agenda, but I do want to mention some, when we get to selectmen's announcements.
is that where we're at, I think?
Well, we didn't have public comment yet.
Oh, you didn't have public comment? Well,
Um, We'll discuss at some point. I've been asked about a dumpster down in Miracle Cove. Because the first thing comes to mind is how many people take advantage of it who don't actually,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
stuff. But
There'll be someone, that's for sure.
we put a big sign up that say, you know, I could talk to Terry and Chrissy about it tomorrow if you two, get a
Yeah.
head nod, look into it and see what, there's not people down there to monitor it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the neighbors that are asking.
yeah, well, sure.
If they're willing to do the work and,
so we're talking about basically the public beach area, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
basically
Around the boat
from,
launch and,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
yeah, from the east side of the cove all the way around to Glenn's Lobsters, it's just a mess.
Yeah. Well, if we
3
can help-
wharfs.
If we can help out with a dumpster, I'm willing to do that, if somebody's gonna keep an eye on it.
I'll discuss it tomorrow with Christie and Terry.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So, recently, there've been some cases of swastikers and gassing Jews and things like that written on the road, and I just want to say, that's unacceptable in a lot of different levels. You may think you're having fun and yanking people's chain or whatever reason you're doing it, but just, it's absolutely unacceptable, so get with the program.
All right, in that case, Town Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will follow up. To my knowledge, there is only one incident in Harpswell, so I do want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
There may be other incidences in the area in Maine and elsewhere, but in Harpswell, we have had one, and I would agree with you. It's unacceptable, not what this community is about, and hopefully, we don't see anything like that again. It has been quite a wild time recently with the storms and the aftermath. I do think there is just an incredible amount of coastal destruction, be it erosion, wharfs, docks, fish houses, homes. They might be secondary, they might be primary. I'm not sure we have a complete handle on that. But the town has done a nice job, and I want to thank Paul Plummer, our harbor master, and Mike Drake, our emergency management director, for gathering a lot of data about the destruction to public property here in Harpswell. And I would say our two major areas where we saw a lot of destruction to public property was in the area of Little Island Road, which is a town road, and our town dock at Potts Point. So we have submitted our preliminary reports. And we encourage people who are watching, I think today there's a deadline for the first storm, and there's an upcoming deadline for the second storm. Again, there's no commitment to fund these preliminary assessments, but we may be able to reach these thresholds that FEMA establishes in each county for public assistance and for private assistance. So, I think this information is hugely valuable and can lead to unlocking a lot of federal funding to help us rebuild. So I really encourage people to do that. We have been invited, the select board members, town officials, to meet or attend a site visit that Senator Collins is having in Harpswell on Saturday. So we're seeing a preliminary itinerary, and the select board members, it was suggested, may want to come at the end. I think the last stop is going to be Mackerel Cove around 11:30 on Saturday. So I think to get the attention of a United States Senator to come to Harpswell to acknowledge what the impact has been, or to hear what the impact has been on our fishing community is huge, and I think it's really important that we demonstrate our support of that acknowledgement
Yes.
and making
Yes.
that effort to come to Harpswell. So I just wanted to make sure you were all aware and that the public's generally aware of that. Yeah, I'm just amazed with the benefit that Cook's held.
Oh, yeah.
To raise money for heating assistance. They're gonna do a benefit to help people in the community who have suffered from the recent storms. I think Harpswell Aging at Home is also doing a benefit of some sort, and we can try to provide some information about that. I think it's a soup and bread, and you can buy it and support people in the community. But I will say that Maine Coast Fishermen's Association is working on something larger, and I have invited Monique Coombs, who's a Harpswell resident and who also works for Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, to come to a future select board meeting to talk about what type of fund they're establishing and how people can contribute to that. And I believe that you're going to be able to earmark your donations to specific communities if you
Oh,
want to help
good.
fishermen in those communities. So we want to get a little more information about that program, and we will, and hopefully Monique can come to an upcoming select board meeting.
Yep.
So we'll monitor some of these things and try to make sure we get the information out there. I do think the Harpswell Anchor, and I want to acknowledge the editor is here tonight, has done a really good job covering so many of these important issues in Harpswell. And I think in terms of documenting the storm damage, I know a lot of that comes from people in the community, but it takes an entity to kind of put it all together, and I think that's been a very helpful record of the situation here in Harpswell.
Great.
So that's my report. Thank you.
All right.
Now for the fun,
Yep.
fun part.
Best time of the year.
So I guess it's time to take a look at the proposed 2024 budget. I do want to make a few statements at the very beginning. Wow, when we put this budget together, we, of course, never anticipated what has recently happened, these two back-to-back storms. And this budget does not contemplate establishing what our priorities will be. I know you talked about the committees wanting to meet. I think it would be important for the select board to really be involved in establishing our priorities and getting input from, the Climate and Resiliency Committee and the Harbor and Waterfront Committee and the Town Lands Committee. So very key, and maybe we have a broad meeting. We can talk about how we want to set that up, but I do think the public needs to understand that this budget doesn't contemplate what are we going to do about rebuilding the town dock at Potts Point. We've filed an insurance claim. We have an adjuster who's visiting. We don't know how much of the loss will be covered, if it will be covered. We've also submitted information to FEMA, so that's a potential funding mechanism. So I just want to be clear that, if we're going to be looking at our priorities, we haven't really addressed that in this current proposal. I do want to mention too that there's been some property owners in the Garrison Cove area on Bailey Island that have been particularly concerned about damage to their property and wanting to know if or when we're going to undertake a project at Garrison Cove. So, all of these things that
Yeah.
we've kind of been looking at and doing some preliminary planning for have really come to the forefront.
What we have in mind wouldn't have helped.
No.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, the plan that was put in place for down there, it wouldn't have made any difference. It would have just come up the ramp and just, it's a lowland. I've talked to some of the people, but they should raise their houses.
Yeah, I think that we, the town, won't necessarily be able to provide the funding
No.
for some of the things that need to be
I-
done.
I
but,
told them that. I told some of them that.
Yeah.
I know them
Yeah.
personally.
That's what they figured out in New Orleans. Everybody's raised their houses up
Yep.
when it floods. And
Well, a couple of these houses are basically, they sit below their lawn.
Yeah,
They've been there for so long, and the lawn's built up around them. And one of them, they lost their garage,
so that being said, the board is currently looking at, and I think the public can see this through our television production and on the screen here, that this budget incorporates the recommendations from the Budget Advisory Committee, and then some of the discussion that we had yesterday about wage and salary adjustments. The difference between what the Budget Committee recommended and what we discussed yesterday is $8,614, so that's been added to this budget. Next week, when we meet, we'll do an updated LD1 compliant budget. We are looking at some of our revenue sources for 2023. They came in stronger than expected, so we do think we'll be able to offset some more of this budget with some of those revenues in 2024. So I don't think there'll be an LD1 problem. Again, it may depend upon some of these other projects down the road and where we end up going with them. But for now, I think we're certainly okay. This budget does anticipate a couple of new things. A part-time position in general government for communications, and this was a recommendation that came out of the Technology and Communications Task Force?
Yep.
Some of our new equipment that we're still rolling out was a recommendation that came from that committee. And in addition, they recommended that we really have a person on the town staff that has a skill set in communications and can help us in that area. So there's money in this budget for that part-time position. Also, a change in this budget is we're looking at employing a full-time planner. We have had a contract with Mark Ironman for a number of years. It's worked really well. He's planning to retire in the time frame of June, but he is willing to help us with a transition to a new full-time planner and to even continue working with the town on special projects. So I think that's a very helpful place for us to be.
Yep.
He does have just incredible institutional knowledge about
It's
our
gonna be a hit.
ordinances
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and the application of our ordinances, so, yeah, I don't think we can let go completely yet.
No.
But at some point, I imagine he'll be looking for that. Also, in the special projects area, we're looking to put more money into a town-wide reassessment that would potentially start in 2024, but wouldn't be completed or implemented until 2026. Let's see, I'm just trying to point out some of the larger increases. In the capital reserve area, we have a pretty significant increase for the recycling center. We're looking at getting phase 2 underway. It seems like the longer we put it off, the more expensive it's getting, so that ballpark number is starting to climb into the 800,000s, and we're proposing to put like 375,000 into that reserve and be able to bid the project and potentially start it in 2024. I think, again, there's going to be so much going on with contractors. I mean, hopefully, we won't get bogged down in that, but we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, I think those are kind of the big picture items. We'll talk about our use of ARPA funds, but I don't know that we'll get to that tonight. But we can start from the top with general government. So we're looking at a 6.16% increase overall in appropriations in general government. And Terry, you can feel free to add anything you would like during the course of the presentation. I'll just try to point out, this is where we have budgeted the communications person. It's kind of hard. We've been juggling this general administration budget with our multi-office assistant, and so it's kind of hard to see that increase here. But I will say, in the salary, full-time, those are wages for myself and for the deputy town administrator and treasurer. Wages full-time would be for our front office person, receptionist, multi-office assistant. Then we have some part-time wages for our communications person.
Those adjustments have been made since yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And also, the other part-time wages in general government would be for our bookkeeping person, who helps with accounts payable. So, since we've kind of shifted some of the, we've moved our full-time office assistant up, and in our part-time, we have two positions now. We have the, again, the bookkeeper and the communications person. We have some contracted service money in there. There are different times during the course of the year when we need specific professional consulting services, and I would say this is the area where we have paid for Steve Levesque, who is helping us with economic development work. We have an annual audit, and we're budgeting $13,000 for that. In our computer systems agreement and support, that's for our software programs and for any technical assistance we might need during the year. We have a legal budget of about $45,000. I'm sorry, $50,000. The computer systems support is $45,810. Legal is $50,000. We have an advertising and promotion budget. We have,
Let's back up to legal. In cases where we have a unexpended, like the 4,000, we're requesting 50, but are we requesting 46?
no, we're requesting 50.
50.
That 4,000 lapsed to the general fund.
Oh, but it's not a capital, so it relapse,
Right,
yeah, okay,
right.
sorry, never mind.
We have a copying budget, a postage budget of $14,000. Some limited travel expenses, training, membership and dues. This is where we account for being a member of Maine Municipal Association, the Mid-Coast Council of Governments, the Harpswell Business Association, and I think they're calling themselves the Bath Brunswick Chamber of Commerce again. It used to be Southern Mid-Coast, but I think the name has changed back to Bath Brunswick. We have some registry of deeds that we have to do some recording of documents. Our supplies, printing, public information area, office supplies is $9,000. And then just below that is a printing and public information area. This is where we have paid for our annual town report to be printed. We've tried to get out some municipal newsletters, and maybe we'll be doing more of that with our communications person on staff. We have a recruitment budget of $1,000. Computer equipment, $6,000. That we have this replacement schedule for computers. We have some money for hiring people to help film these public meetings. I think that's an area we might see growing in the future as we get this hybrid meeting capability off the ground. We have some general office assistants, and then our office equipment, I should say, and then we have the Registrar of Voters, who is our town clerk. So any questions in the general government area?
Nope. Far so good.
Okay. I don't know if Terry is supposed to be moving that ahead. Whoop.
There you go.
So here we have our three members of the board who are paid a stipend of $6,000 each. We have our salary for our elected tax collector and our elected town clerk. And so the amount for Registrar of Voters is additional to this town clerk salary here. And there's a very modest travel budget, which I think most of our elected officials apparently don't seem to request reimbursement
Right.
for, but it is
Yeah.
available. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Assessing. We have a full-time Maine assessor. We have a regular part-time person in the office now. That seems to be working out really well. We talked about this revaluation occurring, so that would be an outside entity coming in. It may create some additional workload here, but I think it would be manageable for our staff. We continue to have a company annually come in and review sales data and at times recommends certain adjustments if they seem to be really off. We get our aerial maps updated every year.
Well, the tax maps, not the aerials.
Oh, tax maps.
Right.
That seems to be a bit higher. I'm just trying to think. Oh, they wanted to do a special 2024 update with private and public roads being distinguished on our tax maps. And so that's an additional $3,150. Again, modest travel, training. I think our assessor's a member of the Maine Assessors Association. There's certain recordings of documents that occur and some very minimal equipment expenses. And that budget is slated to go up 6.1%. Okay, now we're on to code enforcement. We have a full-time code enforcement officer. We have 2 full-time people working in the office. One is an alternate code enforcement officer, and one is a kind of an office assistant. And I think 3 full-time people in that office. One is the department head, has really improved the functioning and effectiveness of that office. I will say, I think they're going to be extremely busy, given all of the
They are.
projects that people want to take on and trying to understand what permits are needed. If they need, state agencies to weigh in, there's going to be a heavy workload there. And then they have a general budget for communications, travel, training, membership and dues. Again, most of these departmental operational budgets are for personnel. And that budget is actually down 4.4%. Tax collector is the next budget. Again, the tax collector is elected, so that salary shows up in the elected officials budget line. This is for the deputy tax collector. And then you can just see there are, the contracted service line in this budget is for having our tax bills printed out of the office. And just, basically some minimal expenses, and that budget's up 2.7%. The town clerk's budget, again, this is for the deputy, the full-time wages. There's a little bit of part-time wage money carried, appropriated or proposed to be appropriated in this budget
In a presidential year.
because of the presidential, election coming up. They might want to have somebody in the office, because I think what we're seeing is this trend for more absentee voting.
Yep.
So it's helpful to have an additional person in the office to handle those absentee ballots. State elections are covered by the state, is that right, Terry? So we don't have to carry any cost associated with them. We've got an annual town meeting cost of $3,200, a special town meeting of $2,000. And it looks like, if, depending upon what the select board decides, that we've talked about this possibility of a May town meeting for the comp plan, for our new FEMA floodplain maps, and there may be some other items, so I think this is very likely to be spent. I know you haven't made a final decision on that yet.
And the state pays for their, we budgeted funding for the state elections, that's for the personnel.
Okay,
The school pays us back for that, but the state doesn't, but the state does pay for its ballots.
okay, thank you. And there's no money for voting booths or scanners there.
Because we changed that to go for each election,
Okay.
so you know your cost for your annual town meeting.
Is worked
you.
into that number?
Yes.
Okay. And that budget is actually down 3.2%, which is pretty amazing, given it's a presidential election year. Okay. Town planner, this is where, that full-time salary, I do want to mention, is really kind of a 3/4 of a year. I think for Harpswell to be competitive, to get a planner is going to be in the $70,000 to $80,000 for a full year.
A real planner, yeah.
So I just want to say that up front. The part-time help, I think, right now is we're getting some support for the comp plan task force here. We have a person on staff who's helping out in that area. Is that what that is for? But that, that's supposed to come to a completion, obviously, in 2024. But I do think as we get a new planner on board, I think the planner will begin to realize what kind of support staff may be needed, either coming from the code enforcement office, which it kind of currently does primarily, but we may need somebody working more closely with the planner. I mean, it would be great if our new planner has some GIS skills. I think we just don't really know
Yeah.
until we, start advertising, but I think this budget could, kind of see some additional increase in that part-time area, depending upon the kind of team that the new planner would like to have in place. And then the contracted services do include the services of Mark Ironman. That figure is included through June, and then potentially,
More.
as we transition.
Right.
So right now, we hire out for GIS help. And I think that's an area where, we'll just see how that looks in the future. Whether we can do it in-house or whether we're gonna still need that outside consultant. So that budget's up 51%. Next is the committees and commissions. And, I think we say this all the time, or maybe we don't say it often enough, that the committees in Harpswell support the work that we do at the municipal level, and the skill sets that our volunteers bring to the committee meetings and the task force is invaluable and really helps us move so many initiatives along.
You don't have to convince me.
So this budget really seems so minimal for the value of what people contribute.
And this doesn't pay any salaries for them either. They're
No,
totally
I mean, for
volunteers.
Board of Appeals and Planning Board, we pay is it
Yeah.
a $10 a meeting stipend?
Yeah, outrageous.
So it's kind of a small token. And then there's a little bit of money for special events that some of our committees might want to hold. So very minimal, given the output that we get. Okay, next is this facility? Okay.
Facility.
So we have contracted services is really an outside cleaning company that comes in on a regular basis. We no longer have this separate kind of caretaker stipend. We've sort of wrapped it into code enforcement. This is
Slash
where
Terry.
everybody takes a little share of that. Electricity, telephone, Comcast, our basic repairs and maintenance of the building, mowing. That's probably our biggest cost there. HVAC support. That number has varied over the years, but we actually had a fairly low expenditure in 2023, $3,500, which is good. And we're working on a new contract with a company that's there. I think we talked about this previously, is
Yep.
working on that contract. We haven't brought it back to the board for approval yet, but they're working on it.
And it's not because there's been less issues, it's because there's only so many times they can come and say they can't do
Yeah,
anything.
because they can't buy the parts to fix this old system.
Right.
Well, hopefully in 4 or 5 years, we'll have that solved.
Oh, dear.
Before that, hopefully.
Well, we've been discussing it for 4 or 5 years,
Right,
so
we've talked it to death.
Another 4 or 5.
my pessimism is well placed.
It is, it is.
Parts of the building are really warm and other parts are frigid.
Oh,
Yes.
you
I'm
get it.
sure you know.
We didn't have a hockey game back in planning
Yeah,
/
yeah.
harbor master.
Let's see, municipal vehicles, we've got, is it 4 vehicles now?
Yeah.
So, a couple of Tahoes, a Ford Escape, oh, and 2 trucks currently,
Well,
so we
like
have
5.
5 currently.
Well, but one truck is not being
Oh,
used.
1 truck, that's right.
And we have to make a decision about putting it up for sale.
Okay.
Came with electrical issues known to Chevys for that time period.
We provide drinking water, treatment of our water system. We carry a $10,000 heating oil, we use oil here, a budget for that, and then a security system budget. Our facilities is actually down around 2%,
Because of caretaker.
primarily because of the caretaker piece.
Well, no, quite a big drop in drinking water treatment.
Because that, we no longer, this year, one reason why repair and maintenance is up quite a bit is the switch out a tank on a monthly basis went away, and we purchased and had installed a new filter, which we add a bag of salt to once every 4 to 6 weeks.
So cheaper, okay.
So it's really just for salt now.
The next budget category is the emergency medical services building or garage. It's a fairly minimal budget for the actual garage. We pay a lot for the service with Maine Health now, but very valuable and worth it. Electricity, they have cable, internet, phone, minimal repair budget. We provide drinking water, and there's a small supply budget, and that is staying, but no increase in that budget, 7,300. So the old townhouse, we're recommending that the board carry, or they already approved the carryover budget. So that was 30,000, was it, on the
Yes.
carryover list? And we have 45,000 approved from the capital reserve fund to get that building repainted, which is something that we will make happen in 2024.
Good.
So this repair and maintenance for 11,000 is really not for that painting project or the shingle preservatives, but primarily for mowing, security system, electricity. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
We can skip that one.
Plan B.
Yeah.
Any idea how many people signed up the other night? I forgot to ask Paul.
For the dinghies, is that what
Yeah.
you could sign up for?
I forgot to ask them.
Yeah, I meant to ask him too. I'm just curious.
I'm assuming they all fall, it was due,
It was 2 days ago at midnight or something.
yeah, so.
Usually there's a line at midnight.
Right, and we were still going to encourage
Yeah.
signing up because
Yeah.
it didn't collapse until
Yeah.
after that.
I will say it's been on our radar screen to look at that for resiliency issues and
Yep.
whether or not it needed to be heightened,
Just got
given
moved up on
sea
the
level
list.
rise and,
It was
you
gonna be
know.
this year's budget, 2024.
But that would be yes, by the way,
Mm,
as far as raising it.
Yeah,
It was raised.
yeah.
Different kind of
The
raised.
Z.
Yeah,
With the Z.
So I guess,
Come back to that?
yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
should just,
Well, we know we have the cost of the removal, so we know we,
oh, true,
Yeah.
yeah. We could get it reimbursed by, you're talking about the costs related to,
if approved.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's not gonna be cheap.
Yeah, we probably, yeah,
So we can certainly come back to that, but I think we have to carry something because of the approval. We don't know what we're going to get for
Right.
insurance and/or FEMA,
Mhm.
and we at least had a direct cost of removing the debris.
Right.
we may have a better idea of that cost next week. So, that's a good point. So then we move to town landings. You know, we have them listed on this page, I don't know if people can read that, but, Mackerel Cove, Giant Stairs, Tide Mill Cove, Steamboat Road, Potts Point, Steamboat Wharf Lane, Graveyard Point, Holbrook Street, Lookout Point.
We have more, these are ones that get mowed.
Oh, these are the ones that get mowed, so they're included in that $10,000 figure. We've also increased the amount of money we want to spend for a park monitor for our town-owned lands.
Because they're gonna work with the harbor master more directly, the deputy
Yeah,
harbor master working in the waters.
Good. Yeah.
I think the challenge will be finding someone, perhaps, but we'll see, you never know. And all the work we did on the giant stairs, oh, that's another one of our projects that got wiped out, so that was a kind of a big one. And that is not covered by insurance for sure.
Just FYI, the members of the Town Lands Committee plan to do some bringing gravel back on the path this coming weekend, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's frozen.
Well, they may have a hard time
I think
then. May have to wait for the next warm day.
I think they might.
Yeah,
Next
Everything
March.
everything got wet, and then
yeah,
even the gravel's everywhere.
like
What did
rock,
we end
yeah.
up, oh, was
yeah.
that around 10,000
nice thought.
that we had for that?
About 8,800.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You just can't predict these things. Next is Cedar Beach. I think we're looking at the same budget as 2023.
Mhm.
Having a monitor there, it's part of our agreement to be able to use the private road and the beach area. That we provide daily monitoring from June through Labor Day. Doesn't say how many hours, but we've got a pretty good system in place now, and the recreation director oversees this location. Cemeteries, this is an area where the budget committee recommended that the town kind of increase this reimbursement that we provide them for taking care of veterans' graves. And we kind of have a history on there, it may be hard to see. But for a while, we were providing these 5 private cemeteries in Harpswell with a $10 per veteran's grave. We went up to $12.50, $15 in 2020, $20 2021 through 2023, and they're recommending $25 in 2024, given just the cost of mowing and labor and
Yeah.
fuel
Yep.
escalating. And they provide us with the number of vets that are buried in each of these locations. And this is not a budget that includes the town-owned cemeteries. Okay. risk management. I think one of the recommendations that came out of the Budget Committee, and you heard about it at your workshop, is to have more of a comprehensive review of our coverage in the upcoming year. But currently, we did receive kind of an estimated projection of the new policy cost. We know it's a fixed cost through June, and I guess you projected, was it a 12% increase? for the-
They don't
yeah.
provide us one
Oh,
7 months in
okay. No,
advance.
all right, that's
So
just a,
we
one
do our
that we
best.
use, yeah, okay, got it. General liability, public officials, fidelity, property damage, boats and motors, vehicles. And we have workers' comp through Maine Municipal Association. And we have volunteer firefighters covered. This is like a policy for the time that they sort of receive a call and leave their home and go to the site.
Yeah.
There was a gap in that coverage, so the town picks that up. And then we have a general volunteer accident policy. So overall projecting about a 6% increase there.
Just a question, the workers' comp had gone up, is it on the way down now? Have we,
It
the
is
time
on the
passed?
way.
Yeah,
So in 2021, we had budgeted about 36,500. Then it took a huge increase in 2022. We had some injuries. And now we're starting to come down. Now, it looks, we expended about 37,000 in 2023. So maybe our 41,000 is a little on the high side, but I think it's within the realm of what we may be charged. The more people we add to our payroll,
That
it
adds, of
starts
course, yeah.
to go up. And of course, it's the firefighters that really have caused the policy to go up considerably.
The reason why I kept that kind of high is that we also get charged for people that are not carrying their own coverage, but yet we hire for different things. And so, for example, the bandstand performers, none of them carry
oh,
their own insurance, and it was a decision made that says, you know, we get audited workers' comp annually, it's coming up again. And so I don't think we should discuss reducing it until we get that audit, because what they do is they charge us extra or give us a credit, and that rarely happens. But part of that audit, they'll see who got 1099s, and several of those get swept in, even though they weren't our employees.
okay.
In order to have the performers are not going to go on and fill out a workers' comp exemption form, and so there's several of those type cases, which kind of vary year to year, and we're not sure which ones will get covered, and
Okay.
so there's that variable, but definitely, other than the odd exceptions, we always make everybody have their paperwork in order, but there's just some that doesn't make sense.
Sure, sure, yeah, makes sense.
But if we can look at that 2023 expense line, it looks like we're getting back to the 2021 level.
Going in that
but,
direction, yeah.
But as Terry said, we have some of these exceptions, we have more people on the payroll, so there'll be some variation. Next area is employee benefits.
Oh, thank you, that's the other reason why I
Oh.
increased, is
Oh.
we are adding staff.
Right.
Yes,
So in the employee benefit area, the total budget here is going up 14.6%, primarily in the health insurance area because of the anticipated new full-time town planner, and maybe another position that you considered adding it for, so. I mean, that's the big expense there. Did you want to say anything more? No. So the health insurance policy went up about, what was the figure?
Yeah, 4.25%.
Yeah, so that wasn't too bad. It's really the adding of the staff that creates that $56,000 increase,
There's just one
or
anticipated.
one anticipated.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's partly the 4% and partly the new
Right.
person. Okay. Any questions?
No?
Nope.
Okay. Contingency, so we did expend about 32,000. We've been carrying this $57,000 figure for a while. We haven't had too many contingency expenses over the last 5 years. Well, I mean, I guess back in 2018 we did. But they've been pretty low through 19, 20, 21, and 22, and then we had a debt service piece and minimal on streetlights. So that contingency is lower than we might have expected it to be, and I don't know if we might want to, that might be an area we take a look at, given especially all
All
these
of these things that are going.
situations we could be facing, so.
It does meet the policy, but that doesn't take into account the emergency situation that has
Right.
occurred.
Special projects, so this is where we talk about the town-wide revaluation. We put 75,000 aside in 2023. We're requesting 150 from our taxpayers in 2024. And then I think we're going to recommend some use of fund balance. That's something we'll talk about next week, once we have a really good idea of what our final fund balance is by closing the books at the end of the year. And I think we've got some room to apply it to this project. And our latest estimate was like $375,000 for a 2-year full revaluation, where a company would visit every property. You can't really do it well in 1 year. You really need a 2-year cycle. So.
Then you get to start all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The financials are done, and we do have a good idea of what we can use. We just need to get together on all the different projects.
Okay, yeah. Got a pretty healthy fund balance, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Because last year, we anticipated that the voters might want to use it to purchase West Harpswell School, and then they didn't, so we didn't end up using that. And so we've got more to put towards some projects in 2024. Recycling center operations, that's up about 5.3%. We have a full-time manager, we have 3 full-time people who work year-round, and we have a part-time seasonal person. You know, the costs are substantial in waste disposal and recycling. And there's information on how this is calculated. The manager provides like a 3-year average of the tonnage to get rid of our household recycling is $126 a ton. That does not include the transportation. And then the recycling is $183 a ton. And we've talked about this before, about how the recycling is more expensive, but we want to continue to encourage recycling. So those areas have gone up substantially. I will say, if you look at the unexpended category in 2023 for waste disposal and recycling, there was a total of 37,000 that went into the fund balance that we didn't use, so.
Double check with the
Yeah,
manager.
yeah. So we might be estimating on the high side here. Any specific questions?
I don't see any.
And the transfer station, so all the personnel costs are reflected in the recycling center budget. And then the transfer station reflects the costs for the demolition material being, handled and removed by a contractor. We have to pay 126 tons, $126 per ton, excuse me. And it's estimated that we would have 700 tons of demolition debris in 2024. Then there's the trucking expense, but we did increase the price per ton that people pay. So this is really, we offset these costs based on kind of user fees for people who are doing this type of demolition. They're essentially covering most of our costs, I think. We're getting there. I mean, not 100%, because you've got to factor in personnel costs, but we do try to run an analysis of that. We did that with the budget committee. I don't remember off the top of my head how much we showed we were covering, but.
I'm wondering, again, with the storms we've had, if that might be some changes in here in terms of, particularly if we
That's a
provide a
really-
dumpster and,
that's a really good
and
point.
people are not paying fees.
That's a really good point. Yeah, this may be underfunded.
Yeah.
So maybe we should have a conversation with the manager.
Manager, yeah.
Wouldn't hurt.
That is an unknown number.
And we do some grinding of the wood that we receive, which is handled separately from the demolition waste. Okay. We'll get the manager's input on that. Town roads, this funds our part-time road commissioner. We have some contracted services. Well, essentially everything we do, other than our salary for our road commissioner, is contracted. We don't have a public works department. So the road commissioner, sets up various contractors to perform mowing, patching potholes, putting up street signs, that type of thing. We really have put more money into our capital road plan. We're trying to get through all of our roads and have a capital project, and then eventually you might see more maintenance to maintain those capital projects that we've undertaken.
Again, do we need to factor in the storms, or are the roads pretty much
I
okay?
think we'll take a look at that. We had roads overtopped. I think what is a concern, and we hear about this from the Climate and Resiliency Group, is when these town roads overtop with water, it starts to impact the base.
Yeah,
But when you go
undermining,
and look over there and you say, oh, the pavement looks okay, I guess it didn't really get impacted, we may need to do a little more analysis of what has happened and what we need to do. And I think that's an area that we may be underestimating, how that is an impact over time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
How much
yeah,
would be
yeah,
impacted this
yeah,
year, or
yeah,
does it
yeah.
take longer? Yeah.
But we did fix Little Island Road, and I think it cost like $8,000 or $9,000, but I'm not sure that's the complete fix. I don't really know at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Have you seen it?
I think it was. I
Yeah,
took a
okay,
ride down and looked at
okay.
it, yeah.
I don't know if they were planning to pave it, or what, I just don't know. I don't have the full picture on that.
Was
so-
it paved before, that section? Can't remember.
I almost think, I feel like it was, but.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was, I'm quite sure it was. So, I mean, that may be a project that ends up coming out of our capital
Yeah.
account. So
My-
our capital account that we had kind of thought we would spend on Peabody Road may start being used in some of these other locations like Little Island. I think we may need to do some more work there. I don't have a full
We have to.
sense of what needs to be done there, but I think this is raising lots of good issues about how we haven't anticipated all these situations, and I don't know how much we can,
And
have to
whether,
think about how much we can adjust the budget or want to adjust the
Right.
budget for some of these projects.
whether there can, some of the planned projects can be deferred for a while, I
Right,
don't know.
right,
We
right.
Really need
We may
to
have
look
to
at
do
the whole
that.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not sure the people on Peabody Road would be in favor of that.
No, that's the capital. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think they're ready to have it done.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, a few years back, they didn't want it done because it kept
Right.
kept everybody driving slow, so,
Built-in speed bumps.
yep.
Definitely.
Snow removal, we have a contract. I think they held the price for us, which is why we see a decrease, minimal.
Well, only for next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. No guarantees after that.
Nope.
This is where we have our salt budget, our winter sand budget. We budget for about 1,200 tons of salt. And about 1,500 yards of winter sand.
Hmm.
Wow.
Just thinking we're getting more rain than snow this year.
I know.
But
And the sheriff's, were you showing the different, we do have information on the various roads that we worked on, is that what you had up, or?
I was just getting caught up.
We have salt and sand use.
Our road maintenance we
Road
track,
maintenance.
and then salt and sand, historical data.
Sheriff's Department, this is for our dedicated law enforcement contract with Cumberland County. We have 3 dedicated deputies who serve in Harpswell. This is where we carry the dispatch contract with Cumberland County again.
So we're not requesting a speed detail this year?
Well, they haven't really been able to provide the additional personnel needed for that. They're really,
But no sense in budgeting for it.
right, they're trying to incorporate that into their general patrol. And when they do, they report it,
Mhm.
but we're not carrying any extra money for that. And that budget's up 4%. The next one is the marine wardens that we have with Cumberland County, and that's 2 full-time. We also pay for the operations of the boat there, you know, not the harbor master's boat, but this is the,
The airboat?
yes, the airboat. And I will say, these deputies who provide marine warden services, they're also deputized so that they can pull over a speeder. They can respond to, you know, law enforcement issues if they need to.
Yeah, they're full-blown deputy
Yeah.
sheriffs.
And that budget's actually down a little bit. Marine services, this is where, I believe it was the Marine Resources Committee recommending that there be a focus on Spruce Cove to do some investigation of the pollution sources there. They have an idea to use volunteers who would collect samples, but then the town would send them off to these labs. So you see an increase here from 5,000 to 10,000. I will say hardly anything was expended in 2023. And I don't really know what you think the situation is, given these storms and rainfall and.
Yeah. I haven't heard of any
Yeah.
closures.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, as far as we know, this is adequate for what they were planning to do. Next area is fire and rescue. The Cundies Harbor Fire Department has requested 75,000. The OBI Fire Department has requested 79,500, and the Harpswell Neck Fire Department has requested 67,500. There was quite a thorough review at the Budget Committee, and there's some good data here, and I think, is this gonna be posted on our website, the draft budget?
It is.
It is, okay, yeah. So there's lots of detail.
Well, all that stuff doesn't get put
Oh,
on.
that doesn't, okay.
Okay,
But
yeah.
is this kind of over here? Oh,
whatever
yeah.
you want,
There's some
but yeah,
summary
it's-
sheets that
Yeah.
really show, we've tried to like put on summary sheets what each town is spending, you know, in the area of volunteers, in the area of fire operations, rescue, facilities, administration, their capital budget, so it's more of a comparative presentation. I think the Budget Committee felt comfortable with the requests. I think that they were very interested in some of the long-term planning that the town is doing, and I don't think this came up at the workshop, but I remember at the committee meeting, there was some sense that, and the selectmen can think about this, if you would like the fire and rescue planning committee to have, it could be helpful to have a budget committee member serve on the fire and rescue planning committee. I mean, right now, you've got the 3 departments,
Yeah.
you've got representation from each department. I don't know, something to think about. It didn't end up in their recommendation, so I don't know how strongly. Do you remember that being the topic? Okay. Just as we start to look at,
It was a member of the public, is what I recall.
oh, member of the public, okay. That you might want more representation as we start looking at the cost of a central station, the kind of operations we're gonna have there, that it might be helpful to have some additional
Well,
stakeholders involved in that.
I think we'll end up the building committee
Okay,
when we do that different,
Yeah.
you know, so it wouldn't just be the fire and rescue committee. They usually take a while to come to a consensus.
So it would automatically have folks from the general public rather than
Yep.
just, yeah.
No, kind of like they did
Yeah,
at the
so-
townhouse, you know,
yeah,
the building
yeah,
committee.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I think this is a good place to stop.
You wanna do the
What are we,
next
almost
one?
halfway through?
But,
No, third of the way through.
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I won't argue.
Okay. To be continued next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, unless you two have a problem stopping now.
Dare one have a problem?
No, old wise one, you,
No.
I believe that was unanimous, Christie.
I'm fine with it.
Nope.
Okay, let me switch out the pages.
Got the warrants, the public.
I move we accept the warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Other business?
No, I don't think so. Oh, I did want to mention, the administration building meeting for Mitchell Field.
Oh.
I just heard from MCOG, and we're gonna have to move that date, so I think I originally said, was it the 13th or the 12th? I think we're now looking at the 28th of February, just in case you're making plans.
This is mine.
Yes,
Thank you.
228.
yep, and not 2/12.
It's a Wednesday, so just so you know, if there's any Board of
I
Appeals.
know. We're gonna just,
You don't have a time for that, though, just,
Same time.
yes, 6 o'clock
oh, okay.
in this room, and I think we're gonna try to do a hybrid meeting, so
Okay.
be a good test of our equipment.
What time did you say?
6 on the 28th.
All right.
We all set?
Yep.
In that case, we're adjourned.